Today I'm gonna show you how to integrate and use VS Code with GitHub. First of all, you need to download and install Git on your system. Git is the technology that powers GitHub. Then you need to configure Git. You need to set the username and also the email address. You can go to Getting Started Guide and use the commands from there to set everything up. Make sure to replace defaults with your username and the correct email address. The next step that we need to do is clone a repository. So we're going to GitHub, finding our repository that we want to clone, then hit the green button and click the copy icon to copy the URL. Then we can come back to the VS Code and then just click Clone Repository button in there. Then paste the URL, hit enter, and then in the window we need to select into which folder the new repository gonna be placed. So in my case it's a new folder. We can apply that, and then once that's done, click open. Now on the left hand side you can see all the decoders that are in this repository visible in the VS Code. We can then access this folder to see the repositories saved in our folder, the one that we selected before. Okay, let's make some changes to the code. Let's open, for example, the netfolks decoder that we got. And let's scroll down to the very bottom of that and then add a couple of lines. For example, just the test from VS Code. So let's do this. Now once we got that done, on the left hand side we can click Ctrl and then just a tick mark to commit the changes. Now in the screen let's delete the hash icon and then just confirm the commit. And once we got that done, just click sync changes, then press OK. If you are doing this for the first time, you will be redirected to the web page where you need to authenticate the Git ecosystem. Then you can just go back to the GitHub, the main repository, and then find our file that we made the changes to. So it's a netfolks decoder. You can see the change has been made now. So when you click on this, on the very bottom of the code, you can see there is a line that we just typed in the VS Code. Now if we go back to the VS Code, let's remove those lines so we can make another change. In this time just removing those lines. So it just is a matter of hitting the delete button on your keyboard. Then you go back to the source control section and then just commit the changes again. And then sync the changes. Now this is done, so you can minimize your VS Code, go back to the GitHub, refresh the screen, and then this very file has been again changed, and you can see those 3 lines of code are now gone. In the VS Code we can also create new folders and new files, so we can push them later on to the GitHub. So as for example, let's create a new file to do that. So in order to do it, let's go back to the VS Code, then in the Explorer section, click New File icon, give it a name, for example, test file. Then once you hit enter, you can make a changes to that file. So let's just give it a little text. Now we've got our test file done. Let's save this and then commit changes and send it to the GitHub. And then once saved and committed, let's sync changes. So this is synced with the GitHub. Now once that's done, we can go back to our GitHub repository, refresh the screen, and then there you go. There's our new file created and then also visible in here. In the same way, you can remove the files. So in the VS Code, if we now right click on our file and then hit delete, and then confirm this, this now is gone from the VS Code and from our system. We can push their changes to the GitHub and then sync it. Then if we go back to the GitHub itself, this file is now gone. So if I refresh the page, I've got the error message, but if I go back to the main repository and then try to find it this way, you can see it is gone from the repository altogether. We can also create a new branch inside the VS Code, which can be pushed to the GitHub later on. In order to do that, we go to View, Command Palette, Git checkout to, then we can select the branches that are already there or create a new one. I'm going to create a new one called My Branch. You can then preview this in the bottom left corner. Then if you repeat the process and then go to Git checkout to, you can then see that there is another branch added to the list of the branches out there. We can now push the changes. So go to the source control, click publish branch, and then it is already committed. Now we can minimize that, go back to our GitHub, and then we should be able to now, after refreshing the screen, see the second branch. So a part of the main branch, we should have the main My branch as well. Now those branches are going to be exactly the same because we didn't make any changes for now. Now then, let's go back to the VS Code and to the Explorer, and then let's create a new folder. Let's call it new folder. And then inside that folder, it's going to be a new file called new file. And then let's put some content in that file. Let's publish now the changes. So go to source control, commit, save all and commit. Now in this screen, unhash the change file and then hit tick to commit. And then sync changes in the end. Right, that's done now, so let's go back to the GitHub and then we can refresh the page and you can see that my branch has a new content in it. So you can compare and pull requests. So create pull request. And then GitHub is running some checks in here, so you can see this. And then once everything is good, click merge pull request. And what that does is it syncs changes between the branches. So now if you refresh the screen and then go back to the main branch, you can see that the synced file is already there. We can now go back to the VS Code. So we are still under my branch, so let's change the view to the main branch. Once that's selected, we can see that this file is now crossed, which means it's not synced with this branch within the VS Code. So we're gonna need to create a pull request from the GitHub to update the branch in the VS Code. So once that's done, you can go to Explorer, and then this file and the new folder in fact is synced, and then within the VS Code you can see there's a main branch selected, so it is in here. So now we can make changes to this branch, and so let's remove the file and then folder as well. So right click, delete, and then also let's do the same with the folder. Then we can commit the changes, so the changes are as visible here, and then let's commit changes. So unhash the entry and then hit take icon, save, and then sync changes to the GitHub. Once that's done, we can go back to the GitHub and then refresh the page or go to the main directory, and then you can see that new folder is no more in here, which means it's been deleted. We can now go to our branches and then also delete the branch if we don't need this anymore. So the my branch still exists, so we can go to the branches icon, and then under your branches section, in line with your branch is the bin icon. So when you click this, the branch is gonna be deleted. So let's refresh the page, and you can see the only branch that left is the main branch, which contains all the information that we want. I hope this was useful. Thank you for watching.